So there is a sense in which culture does escape from the constraints of evolution, in that evolution no longer works to help us. Right? Once we enter the realm of culture, technology, and change, because we enter the realm of things that are never going to be repeated by their very nature. Right? So, and this is where, if I read Evola, I can only take them in some sort of very airy metaphysical sense, because it's not true that if there is to be a rebirth of civilization, it will be a rebirth after a grand cycle of the universe. I mean, it will not be on this planet. It will not. I'm saying a rebirth after it completely collapses. We could never rebuild civilization after a complete collapse. And if anybody doesn't know the proof of that, does anybody not know the proof?
I don't.
It was one of Darwin's cousins. I think his name was, one of Darwin's cousins came up with this in the 1940s. Basically, just think about the story about how metalworking was invented, right? Some chap around a campfire noticed that copper was melting out of a rock. And so you get copper, which was pretty useless, for eventually bronze. The thing to notice is that there are no ores that you were going to build a campfire stone ring out of anymore that are going to melt rock. They've all been dug up and turned into metal. In fact, the ores that we're now commercially working are very poor and require these immense mines and complicated chemical techniques. So fossil fuels will never be available again after a collapse. Even though we're only maybe less than halfway through the fossil fuels now, none of them going for now could be gotten in a naive way. So there's no way to build up technology. So we ate the ladder. We ate it as we were climbing up it. Right? This is why the lie, well, we'll just go back to the Neolithic and we'll be. No. Because you're back there, it's a coffin corner. We'll never get out. No. We have to win the collapse with some core of technology left. And that's necessary. So anyway, evolution can't help us in the sense of selecting for individuals who are more likely to make it through the current crisis. Because, well, first of all, such selection will be useless because once we're through the current crisis, it will never arise again. I think other crises will arise. I'm not one of those who thinks, well, we just solve the current problems and then we go on until the sun burns out in happiness. I happen to think that probably our troubles are only just beginning at the point when we succeed. But since I don't know anything about the problems that will arise then, and since any solution I offer now wouldn't help us, to those problems wouldn't help us now, I think we can safely ignore them. Except I think there will always be problems, again, because this is war. But despite the fact that evolution built our mind, and evolution cannot directly help us at all in the current situation, we can still plan to win with minds that evolved under the selection and pressure of completely different circumstances. This is an example of a more general pseudo-paradox because of which mind, reason, and discourse are sometimes apotheosized as transcendent over physical reality, and I'm sure you're familiar with that. In fact, they're not, and anybody who tries to go on with a life of pure mind in the absence of physical reality, well, a lot of people have tried it. We haven't gotten any reports back yet. But the last topic that I have in my notes, after which I'll go to questions, is an idea I had called moral jubilee. If people are familiar with the Middle Ages, the Jubilee was every 50 or 100 years. The Pope would declare a Jubilee year. They had festivals, market days, peasant dances, and most importantly, all debts were forgiven. So I was thinking that perhaps it would be useful to consider that maybe, say, in the new year 2000, that we had a moral jubilee year. And what this would enable us to do was when somebody brings us some moral issue that we're supposed to have a sentimental or moral feeling about, and the relevant circumstances happen, in fact, before the year 2000, we can say, well, that's been declared, void now. It's expired. And so the sort of person who might come to me and say, Mr. Renner, it's been definitely established now that Mr. Hitler put his trousers on one leg at a time, and so you have a moral obligation at this point to jump into them in the morning, both at once. Then I can simply say, no, it's been jubileed out. That's been forgiven. We don't have to have any moral feelings about it at all. And you'll notice that what I'm talking about is actually the one way the discourse is used more against us. We have to feel bad. Oh, we feel so bad about what Columbus did, or we feel bad about. I actually saw a website. You know the story that in prehistory the Caucasians pushed down into India and gradually like mixed with